Welcome back to the 3C Media page. My name is CraigCrash Collins, joined as always by Brandon Scott, otherwise known as B. Scott. No podcast this week, but we wanted to talk about the conference championship games. We couldn't not talk about the divisional round, which was such an insane weekend of football last week. So we wanted to still make this preview for you guys. And give you kind of our thoughts on what we think will shake out this weekend for the conference championships, as we are just one more round away from the Super Bowl. It doesn't even seem possible, but B. Scott, that divisional round, man, easily one of the best weekends of football. Like I can't remember.
That was every game coming down to the wire. I don't think I've ever remember seeing anything quite like that.
Right, because
I'm not going to complain. That was excellent. That's exactly what we needed coming off of such a boring wild card weekend. But what's funny is that I think I've read that this will be the first time, so this is like the first conference championship weekend since like 2008, I think, that hasn't had either Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, or Aaron Rodgers in it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I saw that stat too. I can't remember exactly what it was, but yeah,
And then dating even further back, every Super Bowl has it's sometime in the early-ish 2000s. Every Super Bowl has featured either a Manning, Brady, Rodgers, Roethlisberger, or the San Francisco 49ers. So that streak is still technically potentially alive.
Right. Yeah, but that's wild. I mean, it's only the second time that Brady hasn't been in the conference championship round in, a second or third time, maybe all time.
Yeah, so, I mean, considering when he makes the playoffs,
right.
I think it was that 1 year he didn't make the playoffs when he
got hurt like week
one.
Hurt,
yeah. And then it was Matt Castle that was their quarterback for the Patriots. So
yeah, but let's go ahead and dive in here. What a weekend it was. We had, starting off with the AFC, you had the Bengals and Titans. B. Scott, you and I both were in on the Bengals. Logan Wilson gets an interception on Ryan Tannehill with 20 seconds left. Evan McPherson, he called his shot before he even runs onto the field. Ice in his veins. The guy who, I don't know where this video went the most viral, and I know it was on TikTok at least, Evan McPherson doing the challenge where you try to make the water bottle like spin off the top. He does that with the football. Just an amazing kicker. He's able to hit the 52-yard field goal as time expired. Derrick Henry, 62 yards and a touchdown. We mentioned how the Titans, if Henry doesn't go off, might be in a little bit of trouble, and they were. So the Bengals,
his first time back.
Right.
And so, like we said last week, he's probably not going to go off, but can they use him as a decoy at least? And I'll tell you what, I mean, the Bengals were just ready top to bottom.
Oh, yeah.
They were ready.
Oh, yeah. Chiefs and the Bills, easily one of the instant classics of our generation. What a game. It was 14-14 at halftime, 23-21 after the third. The Bills cap off a 17-play, 7-minute drive with a Gabriel Davis touchdown catch from Josh Allen with 1:54 left. That made it 29-26, and the game was on from there. In the final 2 minutes, you had Patrick Mahomes getting a touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill for 64 yards with 1:02 left. And Josh Allen finds Gabriel Davis again for a touchdown with 13 seconds left. And you know what? At that point, I had an uneasy feeling. I was like, I feel like 13 seconds is still too much time with the big playability of the Chiefs. And it definitely was, as Mahomes.
Wasn't enough time for Dak and the Cowboys.
No. Yeah, I've seen Shannon Sharp's clip where he was like, how come the Chiefs can run 3 plays in 13 seconds, but the Cowboys couldn't get off 1 play in 14 seconds? Now, granted, the Cowboys didn't have all 3 of their timeouts like Chiefs did, but still. But
it's not Patrick Mahomes, it's Dak Prescott.
Right, exactly. Mahomes gets the Chiefs in field goal range. Harrison Butker, who had missed an extra point and a field goal, he ties the game at 36 as time expires. There was 25 points and 3 lead changes in those final 2 minutes. In overtime, the Chiefs win the toss, and then they score on a Travis Kelce touchdown catch. We'll get to that here in a little bit. Josh Allen had 4 touchdown passes, all to Gabriel Davis, a record to go along with his 201 yards receiving. That's talking about Gabriel Davis. Patrick Mahomes, 33 for 44, 378 yards, 3 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce combined for 19 catches, 246 yards, and 2 touchdowns. On the NFC side, the 49ers and the Packers. Not a whole lot of action in this one as far as scoring goes. The Packers on their first drive drove just right down the field and scored, and you thought it was going to be Green Bay's night. San Francisco blocks a punt for a touchdown to tie things at 10 with 4:41 to play. The 49ers take the ball back after a Packers 3-and-out, and Robbie Gould, who obviously has history against the Packers, being a longtime kicker for the Bears, he hits a 45-yard field goal as time expires, and the 49ers win 13-10 to send Rodgers home. And then finally, a game where we thought we were going to get kind of a rehashing of the 28-3 fiasco, against Tom Brady. All the jokes were coming out when it was 27-3 Rams, but back come the Buccaneers. It was a 70-yard touchdown from Stafford to Kupp, which made it 17-3. The Rams led 20-3 at halftime, 27-3 in the third. But then the Buccaneers get their rally caps on. They get back into the game, getting it to 27-20. Cam Akers fumbles, which leads to Leonard Fournette scoring with 42 seconds left to tie the game at 27. Matthew Stafford finds Kupp for a 44-yard gain to the Tampa Bay 12, and then Matt Gay hits a 30-yard field goal to send the Rams to the NFC Championship game and knocking out Tom Brady. Matthew Stafford went 28 for 38 with 366 yards and 2 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp, 9 catches, 183 yards and a touchdown. So just a wild week in which every single game was won on a walk-off. That's just wild. That's so wild.
Yeah. But if you look at it, the AFC had a barn burner offensive output, back and forth game, or not really back and forth, but, a high offensive output. And they also had one that was kind of a defensive slobber knocker. Same thing with the NFC. The AFC, the defensive slobber knocker being the Titans and the Bengals, and then the track meet, the Bills and the Chiefs. NFC side, the defensive slobber knocker, 49ers, Packers, track meet, Rams, Buccaneers. So you kind of got best of both worlds on both sides of the playoff bracket. And just an exciting overall weekend. One, Tom Brady's out. So that's just kind of an exciting thing in general. It's going to be, somebody else. And then 2, now we just need the Bengals to uphold their end of the bargain and keep Pat Mahomes' fiance and brother off the sidelines.
We don't even have anything wrong, any problem with
I don't have anything wrong, any
Patrick Mahomes
with Pat Mahomes. Nothing. It's just his fiance and his brother are just annoying. I'm sorry.
They're just obnoxious.
Obnoxious, yes. What gives you the bright idea that it's going to be smart after you win the game to take a bottle of champagne and spray it out of your suite over all the fans in the stands?
Yeah.
And then go, oh, I thought it would be funny.
Yeah, no.
Get out of here.
You've got Jackson Mahomes making TikToks, and the funny thing is, he's not even a good dancer. It's not even oh, okay, well, at least he's, somewhat talented. It's no, you're just Patrick Mahomes' brother. That's what you need to change your handle.
What's funny is that everybody hates them, but that's the thing. They're getting all the talk about
That's
them.
True.
And that's exactly what they want. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
We're going to stop talking about them.
We are, because we're going to go ahead.
We're all becoming Bengals fans. I can feel it.
Oh yeah,
I can feel it. Not just because of that, but because the AFC side, it's starting to look a lot like when the Patriots were just constants in the AFC, and that's the way it's starting to look with the Kansas City Chiefs. So now it's all right, anybody but the Chiefs. At this point,
it's not even anything about I won't be like upset if it's the Chiefs. I just want to see somebody
No.
different, especially when
Yeah.
it's a team like the Bengals, who has just been, at least through my entire lifetime, have been just in the throes of mediocrity, or oftentimes worse than that. So
Yeah.
I want to see the Bengals do well. But let's go
Now,
ahead.
I will say, I do believe we are seeing Brady Manning 2.0 in
Yeah,
Mahomes and Allen. We're
yeah.
seeing the beginning of that.
There was some.
There's just something about it that this is, Pat Mahomes is going to be the Tom Brady of this.
Right.
This is a rivalry in the making.
Well, I saw a meme. I can't remember if it was like NFL memes or where I saw it exactly, but it was like making the comparison. And it was like, between Brady and Mahomes, where like that's the GOAT, of that, era. That's the, kind of the bar where the bar is set. Josh Allen is, the Peyton Manning who, is going to be great as well, but is going to be overshadowed in most instances by Mahomes. And then you've got, Manning by Brady. And then you have the, kind of the Ben Roethlisberger character being Joe Burrow, who's from the, AFC North, only can, make it if the other two don't. And then the last one that made it funny too was the fact that it was like Chargers quarterback that, gets wasted, by the team, and it was Philip Rivers and Justin Herbert. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities between that era and this era, and it'll be interesting to see, if we'll see them, if we'll see that come to fruition.
I want to say this, I do love the fact it is a simple jab, but it's a jab that has a really good outcome of it. What the Chiefs fans have done over the past couple of days, they put out a thing where they said, hey, let's all donate $13 a person to Josh Allen's foundation, which supports the Buffalo Children's Hospital, in honor of the 13 seconds that it took us to march down the field and tie the game. So it's a jab at Buffalo, but
doing something
with
good.
a good outcome.
Yeah.
I think they donated over like $2,500. It was something even higher. It was some obscene amount of money that was just like, yeah, I could get behind that kind of, jab at an opponent. That's a great thing.
Oh yeah. That's a classy, but also like kind of a good little
Funny.
jab. I like that. Yeah, funny and classy. All right, let's go ahead and get into hot or cold, where we put out a take and say whether or not it's hot or cold. We're going to do it like we did last week and give our predictions as well. Won't necessarily apply to the first question here, but I did want to make sure we talked about it. And that is hot or cold. The NFL should change the overtime rules. Now, I will say this: overtime games, over the course since the rule was changed back in 2010, these are the games that have occurred in which both teams possessing the football. Wait, sorry, I'll start over. Overtime games that ended without both teams possessing the football since 2010. That's when the rule changed. 2011, Broncos and Steelers. That's when Tim Tebow ended the game on the first pass of overtime. 2015 NFC Championship game, Seahawks over Packers. The Packers never possessed the ball in that overtime. NFC 2016 in the divisional round, the Cards over the Packers. Super Bowl 51. The Falcons never possessed the ball in the famous 28-3 game. 2019 AFC Championship game, the Pats over the Chiefs. The Chiefs never had the ball in that overtime. In that offseason, Kansas City proposed a rule change in which it would allow both teams to possess the football in overtime, and it never got past it never got to the voting stage. And one of the teams that was against it, ironically enough, was the Bills. 2020 wild card game between the Vikings and Saints. The Vikings won without the Saints possessing the football, and then of course, this past weekend with the Bills and Chiefs. So, 7 of 11 total overtime games in that time frame have happened where the other team didn't get the ball. This is the first time I've really heard. Maybe the closest would be 2019, that instance with the Chiefs and the Patriots. Haven't really heard much of an outcry to see the rule changed. Until now. And so it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so if it's been happening regularly since the rule has been changed, is this more of a in the moment we're all up in arms, or is it something that actually does need to be assessed? Because remember, I mean, for one, the Bills had the best defense in the entire league. You got to find a way to stop Pat Mahomes in 13 seconds. If you're going to play prevent defense and prevent the touchdown, then why didn't you just go for two? When you scored the touchdown, you go for two, and then that way you're up by 4 if you get it, and then they have to score a touchdown late in the game, and then it's even more impossible. If that's where you're going to, because that's, I think, the thing that gets me the most is the fact that they're playing prevent defense. When I, like, because, I mean, obviously we all know the big play capability of Kansas City, and when I saw them playing prevent, I was like, that kind of makes sense. And I was like, wait, all they have to do is get in field goal range. And that's exactly what Kansas City did in order to tie the game and eventually win it in overtime. So, and I mean, all the people that are saying, well, yeah, the Kansas City defense wasn't playing well either. Well, okay, so Kansas City scores, the Bills score, and then we're back in the same scenario where all the Chiefs have to do is score and win. So, I don't know if it's necessarily, as crazy of a rule as everybody seems to think, coming off of, yes, one of the greatest games we've ever seen. Now, I will say this. I think that there does need to be a little bit of a tweak. I think if no matter what, if the team that possesses the ball first scores, it should be like beer pong. You get a rebuttal. You get a chance to, in the game, you get a chance to tie the game back up, and you have to do exactly, because, I mean, I've seen people throwing out the idea that, like, oh, they should just play another quarter, or we should do college overtimes. Let's not forget the college overtime is also broken and awful. So at least with the 2-point conversion off that they have after the third overtime, I definitely don't want to see that in the NFL. And playing a whole quarter, I don't think is really necessary, because I just don't like that either. So I think the best thing to do would just be like, hey, if a team scores, whether it be a field goal or a touchdown in the first possession, the other team gets a rebuttal. If they don't score, that's the end of it. That's what I would want to see. But I think it's going to be one of those things where, like, let's look at it again in like a month, maybe 2 months, and see if we actually should make that change when we've seen it happen already more often than not. Or maybe that's more of a reason to make the change if it happens more often than not that the other team doesn't get the ball. Maybe that's more of an argument for it. But I do think it's a hot take, because I think there does need to be a little bit of a tweak there.
Yeah, I agree. This is a hot take. Yeah, I don't think it needs to go to the college rules. For one, the offenses in the NFL are a lot better. So starting them at like the 35-yard line, that's like, okay, one play, we just scored. But I do agree there needs to be a chance for a rebuttal. I still think there needs to be a time limit. I think it's 5 minutes. Yeah, it's 5 minutes. And if, you can't score within that time frame and you're losing, you've lost. You're done. Just like a normal game. If the game comes to an end and you had the ball and you weren't able to take the lead or tie it up, too bad. So, yeah, I think that's what needs to be done. And honestly, it's a situation like this where the game is so epic that will get the NFL's attention. I mean, we had the same situation a couple of years ago with the pass interference rule change and it being able to be a reviewable play with the Saints and the Rams. It was an epic game. It was a something that really affected the outcome. And that got the attention of the NFL to make that rule change. So, yeah, that's what I think. I think it's definitely a hot take, and I think it's something that's going to be talked about. Now, is it going to be something that's going to be implemented immediately? I don't know. Probably not, but I think it's going to come sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
And honestly, sure, I would also like to see the NFL not end in a tie.
Yeah.
I think that's ridiculous. It really screws things up.
I think in the regular season, if you play one quarter and it's still tied, I think you just go to you go to field goals. I think that'd be interesting to see, or something to break that tie.
You go to the college type rule.
Right. Now how about this? Here's if you want to raise the stakes and make it like make it a little bit more like crazy and still, whatever, then how about you, on the team that gets the ball first, they score. So you still have, they score whether it be a field goal or a touchdown, no matter what. I think so here you go. If it's a field goal, then they have the rest of the quarter, the other team to tie the game up. If it's a touchdown, if the team scores a touchdown on their opening possession of overtime, then you reset the game clock to the amount of time that previous possession took. So if the Chiefs scored in like a minute and a half, then you put a minute and a half on the clock and say, all right, Bills, you score in that amount of time or the game's over.
Oh, that's tough because not every offense is built that equally.
But there you go. Like if you want to, if the whole reason is to create, excitement, I think that's better than the college rules. If the whole point is to create excitement and create these high stakes moments, then
I get that, but at the same time, it takes a minute and a half for the Chiefs to score, and there's still only like 3 minutes and 30 seconds left. So if you're a team that stretches it out like the Tennessee Titans that rely on a running game, that's going to hurt you still. It's still not a lot of time. I would say get rid of each team gets one timeout in the overtime period. That's it. You know, or maybe none, no timeouts at all. You just do what you got. It's out there, or on the rebuttal, it's a running clock.
Yeah. Okay. I like that too.
I mean, I wouldn't say, hey, I would, because that's almost like, okay, all right, it took them 13 seconds to march down the field and score. You get 13 seconds.
Okay.
Good luck.
Right.
I think that's that because the Bills' offense is not built the same as the Chiefs' offense. And I think then you would get a lot of pushback. I think you would get a lot of pushback on that. But a running clock may be different.
Running clock, I think, is good middle ground, but I think, that means like if you're the Titans, you're probably thinking about running it back this year with Ryan Tannehill. If you know that you only have, if a team could potentially score in a minute and a half, 2 minutes in overtime, and you're like, oh, do we think that to Ryan Tannehill can drive our team down there, then maybe you make a reevaluation of who you want at your quarterback position.
But at the same time, there's not a Pat Mahomes out there for every team.
I know, but I'm just saying.
There's not a Tyreek Hill out there for every team either. So I don't know. Obviously, it's not always going to get to that point, but
right
now, if I would say a team gets a rebuttal, or another thing is a team gets a rebuttal unless the team that scores first scores a touchdown and a 2-point conversion.
Ooh, there you go. That's also raising the stakes. I like that. So
if you just want to put it into it, you get the touchdown and a 2-point conversion. And then it's like, okay, we just don't want to keep playing this game forever.
Right.
So, I don't know. But I do agree there needs to be a change in the overtime rules. I'm not smart enough to make a decision on what it should look like. I just know there needs to be a change.
Yeah, for sure. So let's go ahead and get into the matchups here for Conference Championship weekend. The first question on the Chiefs and Bengals side, the Chiefs will shut down Jamar Chase in this matchup. Of course, earlier this season, the Bengals and Chiefs squared off. Jamar Chase in that game had 11 catches for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns, a game in which the Bengals won. So, looking at this, the Chiefs are ranked 4th out of 4 as far as teams still alive. As far as defense goes, they allowed 29 points per game, which is also worst amongst championship teams. And Gabriel Davis, who I don't think is on the same level of Jamar Chase, just torched the secondary for 201 yards and 4 touchdowns, which is pretty.
That was like a career. That was definitely a career game.
Oh,
I think that was his first postseason touchdowns of his career too.
And it set a record which is over Jerry Rice. It was insane. Jamar Chase, this season against the bottom 10 defenses in the league, he averaged 137 yards per game. Receiving the football, he had 38 catches, 822 yards, and 6 touchdowns versus those bottom 10 defenses, as opposed to 43 catches, 633 yards, and 7 touchdowns versus the top 20 defenses. That's 58 yards per game. The reason I bring that up is because it's not like he went up against a bad defense and had a dud. So it's meaning that, the worse the defense is, the better Jamar Chase will have, which seems like obvious, but I mean, you have those random games where like, what did this team do? This team that typically, is 32nd in the league in pass defense shut down Jamar Chase. He only got like 10 yards. Then you could kind of go back and look and see what that, how those defenses are comparable with Kansas City and try to see if there's a way they can do it. But usually Jamar Chase, if it's he feasts on the weaker defenses in the league. And then, so Chase, like I said, hasn't really had any duds against the league's worst defenses. My prediction, though, for this game, Patrick Mahomes is 32-9 all time at home. By the way, this is a cold take. The Chiefs will not shut down Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase will have another big game. Prediction, though, Mahomes is 32-9 all time at home, including 7-1 in the playoffs. The Bengals' defense is 18th in terms of total yards, 26th against the pass. They are 5th against the run. The Chiefs are 18th against the run. So, are 18th in rush offense. So for what that's worth, the Bengals can shut down an already mediocre Chiefs run defense to make them one-dimensional, but that one dimension is Patrick Mahomes, so I don't really know if that's really much of an advantage. But we just saw the Chiefs hang 42 on the league's best defense, and Mahomes just outgunned Josh Allen. And while I want the Bengals to win, I just don't think Burrow is up for that task. So I'm going with the Chiefs here. I think the Chiefs will win. I want the Bengals to win, but if I'm, putting any, if I'm trying to be more credible and make the wiser choice, I'm going with the Chiefs here.
Yeah, I think this is a cold take as well. I think Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase right now are just playing on a different level than everybody else. Well, not everybody else, but they're just playing at a different level than they were earlier in the season. Let's put it that way. And Jamar Chase is making the case be known for him to be one of the best or better or best wide receivers in the entire NFL. I mean, I keep going back to this every time I talk about the Bengals and their offense, but the fact that the quarterback and the number one wide receiver have had a connection in the past in playing in college together, and they won a national championship together, it does not hurt one bit. It actually helps significantly. But I do agree with you. I don't see the Bengals being able to take this game. I think it could be a fun game early, but the Chiefs and going into KC is not an easy task at all. It's never been an easy task. That fan base is just a different level of fan base. So I got the Chiefs winning as well.
Yeah.
At the same time, the way it's become, it's the Chiefs in the AFC until proven otherwise.
Yeah. Well, and also it's good to point out that I think by that week, what was it? It was week 17 when they played, I think, week 16 or 17. And I think by that point, the Chiefs had already wrapped up the AFC West, and that was the game where the Bengals clinched the AFC North. So a lot more for the Bengals to play for in that game. It was also at home. So I think in a different circumstance on the road, one game away from making the Super Bowl, I think it's a little different stakes for Kansas City this time around.
And that Kansas City's been there, done that. The pressure's not going to be on them nearly as much.
Right.
And whereas this is a different stage for the Bengals.
Right.
And, nothing wrong with it. You got to start somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
But running into a juggernaut like the Kansas City Chiefs at that stage, it is what it is. And, we've all enjoyed the journey that this Bengals team has been on, and they're set up really, really well for the future. And I can't wait to see what this team looks like.
They get stronger, like in the trenches, like especially offensive line. Allowing 9 sacks against the Titans was pretty crazy. If they could get better, on the offensive line, add a couple more, they don't even need to add that more firepower on offense with Chase and Mixon. But this is, I think they're set up to be pretty good for the next, several years at least. Moving on to the NFC, the 49ers will complete the sweep of the Rams. The 49ers, of course, won both regular season matchups with the Los Angeles Rams. So the question here is, whether or not they will complete the sweep. And you know what? I originally wrote this question thinking that, I don't know that many teams have completed the sweep. I don't know that it's happened a few times. I know where a team has played, the same team 3 times, but I can't imagine, not in the NFL, that, you would have seen that many, sweeps over the course of 3 games. But, in matchups, where one team won both regular season matchups and then they played again in the postseason. That's happened 8 times since 2002. 2002, of course, is when the divisions were realigned and they are what they are now. The teams that swept the series with an opponent, then won the playoff matchup. That would be the 2002 Steelers. They went 3-0 against the Browns. The 2004 Rams. They went 3-0 against the Seahawks. The 2008 Steelers, who went 3-0 against the Eagles, and the 2017 Saints, who went 3-0 against the Panthers. The teams that lost both regular season matchups, but then went on to win the playoff matchup, that's only happened 3 times. The 2004 Vikings, who beat the Packers in the playoffs. That was the infamous, Randy Moss. That's a disgusting act by Randy Moss in the end zone. The call from Joe Buck. The 2007 Giants, who did go on to win the Super Bowl. They did that to the Cowboys. That was all of these are marked by notorious events. You have that is a disgusting act by Randy Moss. You have the Terrell Owens interview after the game with Cowboys and Giants where he says, "That's my quarterback." And then
that wasn't disgusting. That wasn't a disgusting act.
No, I'm saying that those were the memorable moments. Yeah. 2020, that happened again where the Bucks, of course, lost both regular season matchups with the Saints and then one in the postseason. That, of course, marked by the final game for Drew Brees. So I guess if there's some memorable thing that's supposed to happen in this game, that's how you can kind of mark it. So oddly enough, the team that won both regular season matchups has completed the sweep more often than not, which I wouldn't have guessed that. But, in looking at this game, whether or not, the 49ers can win, because it just seems like that's all they've been doing. They haven't really been doing anything super crazy. They've just been going out and playing good defense and just finding ways to win. The 49ers defense is third in terms of yards allowed this season. The Rams' 2 worst offensive performances were against the Niners. The 49ers are 6th against the pass. 2 of the 4 worst passing performances for Matthew Stafford happened against the San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers are 7th against the run. 2 of the Rams' worst 3 rushing performances happened versus the 49ers. And San Francisco has also shut down 2 top 10 offenses this postseason in the Cowboys and Rams. So for me, go put all your money, if you're listening to this, go put all your money on the Rams, because I'm picking the 49ers. All signs point to the 49ers Chiefs rematch for me in the Super Bowl.
I think this is a cold take. I got the Rams winning this matchup. I think the Rams are just playing at a different level than they were at the end of the regular season. The month of November was atrocious for them. And I think, Matthew Stafford is playing with a chip on his shoulder, and he's basically right now, he's putting it all in. And it's been fun to watch him. I think they're on a mission right now, and I don't think the 49ers are going to be able to get in their way. Honestly, I think this could be a fun game, but if it ends up being a potential track meet, you go Stafford, because I don't think Jimmy G has what it takes, and he definitely doesn't have the weapons to go toe-to-toe. I mean, yeah, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle are, really good weapons, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And I don't think they can complete the sweep. It's tough to do, to be honest. I mean, if you look at the year, the most recent it was done was 2017, but even that's a long time ago. And I don't know. It was the one thing that's been consistent when you look at the teams that completed sweeps. You look at, I guess the only outlier is the Rams in 2004, but most of them had solid quarterback play.
Yeah, Roethlisberger in 2002,
Roethlisberger
Breeze
a couple times on there, Tony Romo, Drew Brees. So it's really tough, and you need to have that elite level quarterback. And unfortunately, I don't think Jimmy G is an elite level quarterback to be able to pull off that sweep. So,
yeah, I think 2004 for the Rams would have been Bradford, I think, right? That would have been Sam Bradford.
Was it Bradford? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right. Wait, maybe not. Not 2004. No. Yeah, wait, that's a little too early.
Yeah, Bradford was there. Bradford's about my age.
Yeah, let's look that up real quick. 2004 Rams.
It was a random quarterback. Like
It had to have been.
I'm picturing him. I just can't. I can see him, but I just cannot remember his name.
They were 8-8 that year. They beat the Seahawks, and they had Steven Jackson, so that's part of the reason why. Mark Bulger.
There it is. That was what
Bulger.
I was thinking of. I was thinking Brunell, but I was like, it's not Mark Brunell.
No.
I know it's a Mark and it's a B. Mark Bulger.
Mark Bulger, man. It's one of those names that you bring up. I'm like, oh man, memories from watching NFL primetime where they were always so hype on the Rams all the time. All those memories just flooding back. But yeah, all those other quarterbacks are much more noteworthy. I will say this too, that if the Rams had ended up winning against the Buccaneers by like 27-3 or 34-3 was what it would have been if they would have scored at the end of the half, because there was a Cam Akers fumble there too. If they would have ended up winning, let's say 34-10 or 34-17, or whatever, I think they'd be in worse shape than they are now going into this game. I think nearly blowing a 27-3 lead to the Buccaneers kind of refocused them instead of being like, oh man, this is our year. We just dismantled the Cardinals. We dismantled the Buccaneers. We're ready. And then they go up against, because remember, I mean, both the Cowboys and Packers had a lot of expectations going into those games, and the 49ers were underdogs. Now you have a Rams team that's refocused and has a little bit on the line to be like, okay, yeah, you guys won the 2 regular season matchups, but this is when it matters. We're going to come hit you in the mouth in the postseason. So, I mean, there is a case to be made from that angle.
Right.
All right, so you and I both agree on the Chiefs. We both think the Chiefs are coming out of the AFC, although I think we both want to see the Bengals win. And then on the NFC side, we're split. I've got the Niners, you've got the Rams, which is funny because the Rams are literally the only team I have left from my preseason pick of the Bills and Rams going to the Super Bowl. So I think that's what they need. That's the other big point, is that I bailed on them, and so now they're almost for sure to win.